Story 1. Golf looks easy. Just hit a ball into a hole. But it's basically a rage-filled hike where you realize even grass hates you. It's way harder than it looks. Story 2. This is generally true of activities that lots of people have exposure to, but relatively few do competitively. For example, bicycle racing. Lots of people know how to ride a bike and think they have some concept of what a bike race is like. They do not. The speed, distance, strategy, and terror of bike racing are not relatable unless you've actually done it. It takes a special combination of physical endurance, mental concentration, fearlessness, and bike handling skills to be a good bike racer. The training required is absolutely punishing, and you have to be willing to literally risk death to win. Similarly, swimming. Lots of people know how to swim, but it takes actual competitive swimming experience to begin to understand just how talented and hardworking elite swimmers are. It's basically impossible to learn proper stroke technique unless you learned as a young child and have spent many years honing your swimming with professional coaches. Being a good swimmer also requires a monastic lifestyle where basically all you do is train, eat, and sleep for almost zero monetary reward. Story 3. Rowing. It looks so smooth and synchronized when you watch it, like they are just gliding over the water. But try it once, and you'll realize it's all about brutal full-body endurance, technique, and perfect timing. Your legs, back, and arms, everything burns. It is a lot tougher than it looks. Story 4. Car racing. Formula 1 cars can pull up to 6 Gs under braking and in high-speed corners. There is a video out there from a person who has driven nearly every high-end exotic supercar in existence. He had the opportunity to do a few laps around a track in a Formula 1 car as part of a public relations event, and here's how he described hitting the brakes for the first time. I pushed the brake as hard as I could. The G-forces took my helmet down into the cockpit. Couldn't see a thing. By the time I could finally lift my head up, the corner was there, and I finally got back to the pit lane. I got out, and the guy said, "Oh, you did a great job. You hit 40% brake pressure. Well done." And I said, 40%? He said, "Yeah, that's pretty good for a first-timer." Earlier in the video, he also mentioned that the team hosting the event imposed a 3-lap limit per driver, because the average person physically can't endure the G-forces for any longer than that. When Formula 1 actually races at that track, it is 53 laps. Even ignoring the physical side of it, I'm guessing most people have probably seen clips like those that come out every year during the Monaco Grand Prix weekend. You can't tell from the slow-motion shot, but the minimum apex speed at that corner is 131 kilometers per hour or 81 miles per hour. I'd like to think that I'm a decent driver in general, but I don't think I could get that close to the wall without hitting it. At least not while going at anywhere near that speed, and definitely not 78 times in a row like they do in the race. And then there's the fact that there are over 20 other cars out there with you trying to race. You're not just trying to drive that precisely, you're driving that precisely while trying to pass the car in front of you or block the car behind you from passing. You won't see this in a series like Formula 1 because the cars are too fragile, but if you get into touring car racing, it's not uncommon for drivers to tap each other on the bumper or the fender to make an opening to pass. They're intentionally crashing into another car while going at full speed, but doing it so precisely that they only leave a little scratch or dent instead of doing any damage that would actually affect either car's ability to drive. Story 5. All of them, really, at least at world-class levels. Let me tell you a story. When I was in the Navy, I had a friend we'll call Eugene. He was supposedly a big-time wrestler. Real wrestling, not professional wrestling. Now, I was a big, athletic guy, could handle myself, and had a reputation aboard our ship as someone you did not want to mess with. I was about 4 inches taller and at least 20 pounds heavier than Eugene. One day, I decided to see what Eugene had. He was supposed to be this big-time wrestler. Let's find out. I had gone up against many wrestlers in my past and hadn't had any great difficulty with them, so let's do this. I provoked him. In a friendly way, mind you. We were friends. It was just 2 young tough guys doing young tough guy stuff. So there I was, poised, balanced, ready, and then I was on my back looking up at the sky, not sure what happened. I didn't see him move, didn't feel anything, wasn't hurt. I was just, all of a sudden, flat on my back. I figured it was a fluke, So I got up and tried him again, and once again, found myself flat on my back. I want to be clear about this so you'll understand. I never saw him move. I never felt anything. I was in no pain. I don't know what happened. All I know is that one moment, I was standing in front of him, poised, confident, and ready. And then, as if no time had elapsed, I was on my back looking up at the sky, wondering how I had got there. And that's the difference between a good athlete and a world-class athlete. Now, I don't really know how good Eugene was as a wrestler. This all happened in the mid-1980s, and the rumor was that he had been slated to go to Moscow as part of the United States wrestling team for the 1980 Olympics, but President Carter pulled us out in protest of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. The point being, in all the fights I have ever been in, nobody has ever so utterly dominated me, so casually on their part, that I had no idea what had happened. Too long. Didn't read. Went up against a top-notch collegiate wrestler. He used some sort of teleportation device on me. Story 6. During the Olympics in Paris, some threads asked what could be an easy sport to start now in order to compete in the Olympics in 2028. Archery was always among the top 2 or 3 answers. I am an archer and a professional coach. Many people think archery is easy to learn and master, and they try. First shots are at 8 to 10 meters for adults. The bow weight is about 800 grams, and the draw weight is about 20 pounds. They think it's really easy. Then I explain that Olympic archery is 70 meters, with the bow weight about 3.5 kilograms and draw weight about 40 pounds for women and 50 pounds for men. You need to train 8 hours a day, 6 days a week for at least 4 to 6 years just to have a small chance to reach the level to participate. When you see archers in a tournament, it seems so easy and effortless. Try it. It's also a lot of fun. Story 7. You see people do some basic kick flips or ride down a hill and it's like, oh cool, until you just try to stand on one of those tiny wheeled wobbly boards. I commend all skateboarders. Story 8. Pitching in baseball. It's ridiculously hard to throw a ball over 60 feet into a small window that is 17 inches wide. In fact, it is so hard that even the best in the world fail at times to do it consistently. Story 9. I have been playing hockey for over 30 years. I played reasonably competitive travel and high school hockey. Even minor professional players and Division I level players are so much better than I could ever imagine being. They make very difficult plays look incredibly effortless and easy, as hockey is really hard. Story 10. Hula hooping looks easy, but it is basically an intense core workout while trying not to look like you are having a seizure. Who knew spinning a hoop could be so dangerous? Story 11. Competitive equestrian sports, actually proper riding, require significant skill. People often think it looks easy because you just sit there, which makes riders laugh. You work every muscle, and each leg and arm must be able to perform separate tasks simultaneously. If you lack a solid core, things are going to hurt. Story 12. Marching band drum corps. You should see the before and after shots of drum corps international participants before and after a season. They look completely different. Story 13. Many start yoga thinking it is just stretching or relaxation, but it demands flexibility, strength, balance, focus, and breath control. Mastering poses and meditation takes patience and effort, while its philosophical and spiritual aspects add depth to the practice. Story 14. People love to say equine sports are easy because the horse does all the work, but that's not true, especially for show jumping or dressage. The rider needs to be highly skilled and well-trained for both them and the horse to perform. They just make it look easy. Source. I've ridden horses and have done both show jumping and dressage, albeit not to that kind of level. Story 15. Dance. It is the role of a dancer to make the routine appear fluid and effortless, so people who have no experience with dancing might perceive it as easy. Story 16. As a swimmer, I get a certain joy from watching all the New Year's resolution participants come in and realize how hard swimming is, especially from the skill and technique aspect. Story 17. I had always thought golf and tennis looked pretty easy. When I got a chance to play them, I was surprised at how insanely difficult it was for both sports, especially tennis. Story 18. Olympic breakdancing. It might look easy, but getting those kangaroo hands at the exact right angle before you flop onto the floor and have an epileptic fit is actually very difficult. Story 19. Disc golf. Lots of people watch us throw and think it's super easy until they get out there. The good news is it's still fun even when you're not very good at it. Story 20. I have played ultimate frisbee for 20 years. It gets a lot of criticism for being a hippie, not a real sport. But if you play at a high level, people are shocked at the level of endurance and athleticism it takes to play. Story 21. Foosball. I thought I was good until I was in my local coffee shop that had a free foosball table and this random Argentinian man asked if I wanted to play. Turns out he was apparently one of the top in the world and was just in town to ski at Snowmass. Dude was doing things that I was just in awe of, like juggling the balls between the ranks and doing stalls and lobbing them in the goal. I think I scored 2 to his 30-something. 2 of my proudest achievements in life. Laugh out loud. Story 22. Beach volleyball. Volleyball is hard in general, but beach volleyball is so much harder than indoor. That said, it's easy to get motivated to improve because it truly is the most fun sport there is. I know this sounds biased, and it is somewhat, but I've honestly never met someone who's taken it up and not loved it. The trap people fall into is when they begin thinking they're good because they can beat all the recreational locals. Professional beach volleyball is an entirely different beast, and those recreational heroes would likely not be able to get past single digits against them. Needless to say, it's an absolute blast. Story 23. In essence, someone bowls a ball like a jolly good chap, and you use your nicely crafted willow bat to knock it to the boundary. Then, it's all pleasant sandwiches at halftime. I don't play cricket. My 14-year-old son plays cricket for our village and for our town. I try to help him keep active in the off-season. And I can absolutely assure you, having an exceptionally hard ball thrown at you with alarming speed is utterly, utterly terrifying. Story 24. Formula 1 driver. 20 people on the entire planet at any single time have that job. There are probably no more than 60 on Earth who could do it right now and be faster than the slowest guy out there. Story 25. Bowling. It seems simple. Just roll a ball down the lane and knock down the pins, but in reality, it requires precise timing with the right amount of spin and control to achieve a perfect lane alignment. Story 26. I am just now realizing how much more difficult judo is than I thought. Overall, it is pretty easy to get okay at, but the precision you need for techniques like kata and how difficult fighting someone just a bit taller and stronger than you can be have made it a lot more difficult. Story 27. Try hitting a 97-mile-per-hour baseball. It's not as easy as it looks. I recently watched Trevor Bauer, former Major League Baseball pitcher, going full force and pitching to a friend who was trying to get hits off him, and it didn't go well at all for his friend, as Bauer was pitching at 98 miles per hour. His friend isn't just some guy. He has tried hitting Major League Baseball pitchers before and has experience trying to hit against Trevor Bauer. Story 28. The trick to getting good at them is not to underestimate them. I once saw a guy play a video game and he was doing a mission. He wasn't struggling at all and was laughing and joking. If you just tuned in and knew nothing about this game, you'd assume the mission was easy. Instead, it is considered by most people to be one of the hardest missions in the game. Bad controls, unfair mechanics, a time limit. But because this person had years of experience, he passed it on the first try without breaking a sweat. Story 29. The ideal is to look effortless, as if you're doing nothing, just sitting there. You know, the way skaters look like they're just gliding and surfers look like they're just standing. People always go, "Puffed. The horse does all the work. Do the skis do all the work? Does the skateboard do all the work?" Story 30. Ballet. Professionals make it look so simple and graceful, but there is a lot of hard work and sweat behind that grace. I took ballet classes for years. One of the things I would regularly be reminded of by my teachers is that one of the goals when you do ballet is to make it look easy. Story 31. Figure ice skating. It looks incredibly beautiful to watch, and they make it look so effortless with a huge smile on their face, but what they are doing is nearly violating the very laws of physics. I tried taking some lessons, and even getting a decent one-turn jump was difficult. With most other sports, I can kind of comprehend the level they're operating at, as we can do similar motions, albeit much worse than a professional, but a triple axel is beyond what my brain can process. Story 32. Golf is a challenging sport. Even if you mechanically and logically do everything right, The weather, randomness, burrowing animals, divots, and many other factors beyond your control can still thwart you. The deeper you delve into golf, the more unprepared you might feel. You may know how to execute over 389 shots perfectly, but today you'll realize you need shot 390 because the wind is diagonal, you're in Arizona where it actually matters, and a tree branch obstructs shot 128, requiring you to improvise quickly. Golf is similar to chess in that one mistake can lose you everything. The only reason I think golf is harder is because in golf, even if you've set up a perfect play against your opponent, the outcome can change unpredictably. Imagine if, in chess, the coloring of the square was slightly off, causing your queen to move only half as far as you intended, or twice as far the next turn, similar to the fly versus lie rule in golf. Or if your opponent's piece being on a square now limits your next move, comparable to the divot rule. Imagine if fans could interfere with your chess play. They can and do in golf. There are too many variables in golf, and it is already hard enough to manage the ones you can control.